And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to the MongoDB Podcast Live. My name is Michael Lynn, and I'm a developer advocate at MongoDB. And every week, we bring you interesting conversations with folks related to software development, data, and all things MongoDB. We sometimes feature folks from MongoDB, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the internship program at MongoDB. I'm so excited to welcome members of the intern program, folks that are actually going through the internship program at MongoDB, as well as one of the people responsible for putting that program together and working on that in early talent and recruiting. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Courtney Turner onto the stream. Courtney, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Super excited about being a part of the podcast on this morning.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you're looking sharp. Courtney, let folks know who you are and what you do at MongoDB.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Courtney Turner. I'm a part of the early talent recruitment team here at MongoDB. I've been with the company now a little shy of 2 years. I'm pretty sure, Michael, you've heard the saying, 2 years feels like a lifetime. Definitely feels like that for sure. But yeah, so I'm on the early talent recruiting team. I help assist with the software engineer internships along with sales recruiting as well, and based out of Austin, Texas.
Fantastic. Austin, Texas. It's hot there. So,
Very much so.
Courtney, it's a really wild time in tech. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of companies are cutting back, but we're still moving forward with the internship program. Tell us a little bit about that program and what your role is in the intern program.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, definitely a interesting time to be in tech, and so we are fortunate to be able to still bring on interns. The internship program for us is really cool because oftentimes a lot of our new grads and new hires have actually come through the internship program, so that's pretty exciting. As far as like how I fit into the equation, myself along with some of the other teammates, we're like that first face that they get a chance to see of
Mm,
MongoDB. We get a chance to vet them out. We get a chance to recruit on their campuses. We host virtual and in-person events so they're able to get a feel for, what a day in the life of an intern at MongoDB looks like. And then, in the end, they go through interesting, fun, and hands-on interview process that really kind of vets out those. And we wish we could bring as many as we can into the internship program. Unfortunately, we can't, but we do try to make sure we bring on some of the best and brightest throughout the nation for sure.
yeah. Can you talk about the numbers? Like, what does it look like in terms of the number of folks that applied to be a part of the internship program?
Yeah, so the numbers, it's a lot. I have to be honest with you. So I'll talk about how many interns we have this year. So 93, and that's spread out between EMEA, AMER, and then also APEC.
Mm,
So that's kind of what this year looks like. But as far as the numbers, there are a lot. I tip my hat to the recruiters that go through that process. And, it's a really big shout out because a lot of the companies they have processes that kind of like weed out applications, but the early talent team for us at MongoDB, we go through those applications one at a time to identify, who piques our interest, who has the qualifications, what classes, they have taken. So it's a long process, but it's also a very rewarding process in the end
hmm
too.
Yeah. Can you talk about some of those qualifications? What are we looking for when we vet some of those intern recruits?
Yeah, yeah. So, we think about their year in school. So, sophomore, junior, seniors, if they're graduating in December, if they're graduating in May, what that looks like. We also think about some of the classes that they've taken. Are they familiar with the processes and the technical language that we utilize? Are they front end? Are they back end? Are they familiar with JavaScript? Are they good in coding? Have they utilized the platform Carrot before? So there's a lot of different things that we think about from a technical aspect. But then also, we think about we think about what it looks like for leadership. We want to make sure that we're not only bringing in those that are strong technically, but we also are wanting to make sure that we're bringing on those that are leaders. They are
Mhm.
head of technical programs and organizations on campus. So we want to make sure that there's a great balance to also ensure that they fit the culture that we are working to build in early talent for MongoDB as well.
Yeah. Now, you're focused on tech recruiting, is that correct?
Yeah, so I truly focus in on sales recruiting, but our internships really they're a wide variety. We have some technical, we have some non-technical as well.
So what areas, there's software engineering, what are the other areas where we recruit for interns?
Yeah, so it's pretty wide. We have software engineering. We also have product marketing. We have product marketing. We have SWE roles. We have computer science roles. So it's a pretty wide variety. And as a shameless plug, I'm sure there'll be
Mhm.
some additional internships that we'll be bringing in for the next year as well. So I always like to tell students that I speak with, really continue to check in and see, because there's always a wide variety of tech and non-technical internships
Mhm.
that MongoDB is adding to the plate.
Yeah. Well, I love the live stream format that we have for the MongoDB Podcast Live. I am going to put you on the spot. If you don't have an answer, it's okay. Louise Razagon is asking, is there a program for career transitioners who want to get their foot in the door in tech? Not necessarily someone in an internship, but what do you have an answer for Louise?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part of that would be, understanding which aspect of tech they're looking to get into, especially I'll speak to the sales portion. For a lot of
Hmm.
those that are looking to get into tech sales, we have a program that's the Sales Academy that's geared towards those that are either fresh out of college or looking to transition into a sales industry for tech.
Hmm.
So that's one of the opportunities. And then there's a couple of other opportunities too to get in if you're looking to be a job transitioner. But I think it really just kind of depends on like where your heart is, where your passion is. Always happy to connect offline in order to help assist someone that may be interested in tipping their foot to MongoDB for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure your LinkedIn connection requests are going to be flooding any moment now. Kathy White has another question. Do you bring on bootcamp grads, or is it just for those in a 4-year program?
As far as the internship or as far as like
But
the sales
well,
aspect?
let's focus on the internship. Is
Okay.
that for a
Yeah.
4-year?
As far as the internship, yes, 4-year college program.
Okay, all right. There are other opportunities at MongoDB for bootcamp grads. You'll want to check the careers page. I'm going to have a link shortly for that. So stay tuned. Great questions. If you have questions, get them ready. We'll do our best to answer them. We're actually going to bring on some interns to talk about their
Exciting.
experience. Yeah. So I want to focus on, uh, well, for us, for MongoDB, this program is massively beneficial to get different perspectives from interns, from students. But what are the benefits to the intern? How do they benefit from participation in this program?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I could use our entire time frame talking about the benefits, but I really kind of try to break it down into four pillars because I think those are very important. One being mentorship, one being growth, another being community, and then the last one being networking. And so, truly, like networking starts from the beginning when they first walk in, and even actually when they first start their interview process, all the way up until the time they leave the internship. But when thinking about mentorship and growth, we break growth down into a couple different pillars. One being Mongrow, so being able to show and showcase how you can move your career into different lines, and then how you can be a stronger professional after completing the program. And then from a mentorship aspect, we really drill mentorship with our
Mhm.
interns as much as we can. So they have an opportunity to have at least three mentors within the company. And so one would be a mentor that comes from their whatever side of business they're working in from an internship aspect. They also have a program advisor, which is actually what I serve as, along with some of the other members on the early talent team. And,
Hmm.
we're here to help assist you and guide them from the beginning to the end. And then they also have an opportunity to be a part of our employee resource group mentorship aspect, which is a program we have labeled as the bridge building program. And so,
I
when
love
we
that.
think about bridges, bring from one end to another end. And so that's really what we want our ERGs to do. So they have an opportunity to be a part of those three portions. And so the ERG members serve as an ERG guide, and they kind of help coach them and assist them throughout the
E-
process.
ERG. Let's expand that.
Yeah, yeah, employee resource groups. And
Okay.
so MongoDB has about 11 to 12 employee resource groups and
Hmm.
affinity groups as a whole. And so, we've heard nothing but great things about how the employee resource groups and the bridge building program has helped build their network, which kind of is an intertwining portion, their network, and then also helping them to create a sense of community as well inside of the company.
Yeah. There's a question from Martin Mohammed. Is it possible to apply from Europe, or is this US
Yes.
only?
Yeah, so we do have outside of um, U.S. opportunities as well, and so again, just like we
Mhm.
mentioned, feel free to continue to check the MongoDB's career tab that I know, Michael, that you'll have
Mhm.
because you'll have all of the listings and all the locations as well that you can be a part of.
Great. So our producer is working furiously in the background to get some links for us. Thank you,
Perfect.
Addison. Addison is amazing. Okay, so we've answered this question. Keep your questions coming. I love it. Is the software engineering internship remote, or do you have to make it to an office?
Yeah, yeah. And then and I also see the tech stack that you're
Hmm.
looking
Hmm.
for. So we'll have to get a follow-up question for the tech stack portion.
Hmm.
But as far as the software engineer internships, we are in-house. And so for those that are in AMER, our three locations are San Francisco, Austin, Texas, which of course you'll get a chance to hang out with me, and then New York, where the majority of our interns are housed at. We want to make sure that we are giving that opportunity for them to be coached and developed and in person. So yeah,
Hmm.
everything for those internships will be in person.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the questions. Uh, we'll see if we can cover any more before we continue. All right. Just scanning the list of questions coming in. Trainings. This is a great question. So I'm going to take this one. Well, for fresher internships, I'll let you answer to that. But we do have a completely free set of training in MongoDB University. And I'll try and get a link for that as well. But MongoDB University is a way that you can learn MongoDB for free. You can also tune into the MongoDB podcast and come up to speed on a wide variety of topics. We do live streams on MongoDB TV. Make sure you subscribe and follow. If you follow on LinkedIn, you'll be notified when these podcasts are going live. And if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll be notified when we have great content. I know that Nick Raboy and Shane McAllister are putting some great content around language and tech stacks. But how can we specifically get freshman interns up to speed with MongoDB? Anything to add there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you really touched base on it. We understand that some universities may teach MongoDB. We understand that some universities may not. So that's not like a selling factor. But doing your research, understanding, the program languages, high end, low end, back end,
Mm-hmm.
front end, are just really clear ways. And then, of course, once they've come into the program, we have trainings that they'll go through as well that is specific for the teams that they'll be aligned to. So, the normal stuff being able to get through the door, and then we'll help develop and coach you once you have officially, joined onto the team.
Yeah, yeah. So stay tuned. We're going to have some links shortly where you can get more information about the program. Courtney, what do you say we bring some of the interns onto the show and ask them about their personal experience?
I'm excited. I'm sure they have nothing but positive things to say.
Well, we'll see. Let's bring in Iris, Justin, and Trishala. So I'm going to ask you folks to introduce yourselves. Maybe mention your name what you're doing at MongoDB as a part of the internship briefly, and what school you're attending today. So, Trishala, why don't you start?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. First, I'm so excited to be here, and I hope it's helpful for everyone watching. As Michael mentioned, my name is Trishala, and I'm a product management intern here at MongoDB. I go to school at UC Berkeley.
Fantastic.
And I'll pass it over to Justin.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin and I'm a product design intern on the platform core team, and I'm a rising senior at Dartmouth, majoring in computer science modified with human-centered design.
Fantastic. Welcome. And Iris?
Hello, my name is Iris. I am a software engineering intern on the Python drivers team, and I am a my fifth year of college, but I'm a master's student at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Okay, San Luis Obispo. I love it. All right. So we've covered product management, product design, and software engineering. Interesting. So let's get into a little bit of detail. Trishala, what is it that you do as a part of your daily routine at MongoDB in the internship program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think something that I really love about my internship is that I'm doing a different thing every single day and every single week. So there's some days where I'm like a hardcore researcher. So I'm on the internet, I'm looking through a bunch of our own documentation as well as things going on in the industry, gathering information, research. There's other days where I'm leading meetings or doing presentations. Like I led a focus group last week, and a lot of my work was based on that. So I would say it really changes based on the kind of project you're working on and the kind of feedback you get. And that's what makes the internship so special, that you walk away with a plethora of skills that you're building. And it really like builds you up to be such a strong product manager, any role you go into in the future.
Terrific. Well, Justin, I'm going to go to you and I'm going to ask you to talk about a day in the life and maybe focus on some challenges that you had as well.
Yeah. So I guess like a day in the life for me, I would like come into the office in the morning. The community is great here, so I usually have like breakfast with like the other interns or like some of my team members. And then usually I'll have some focus time to do some design work. So I'm a product design intern at MongoDB. And then usually I'll be in a lot of meetings, usually like syncing with my stakeholders. I work with a lot of different cross-functional roles like engineering, product management, product marketing, design systems, like product design works. It's very embedded here and works with a lot of different roles. So that's been great, like getting the opportunity to always talk to new people, talk with people who can bring different perspectives to the project. So that's been really great. And then usually in my day, I'll be like meeting with my design team. And this is a great time to see what other people are working on, to get feedback on my work, to kind of get some fresh eyes in my project. So there's so much opportunity to kind of collaborate with people within my design team, but also people outside of the design organization, which has been great.
Yeah. Any particular challenges that you faced right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think one challenge that I kind of had at the beginning when I joined MongoDB was just kind of like there's a lot of process and a lot of like things to kind of get up to speed on about how the design process works, what checkpoints we need to hit throughout the summer, like in a design project, like who we need to meet with at certain times. I think that first was a little overwhelming, but I'm sure we'll get into it with the mentorship. But my mentor has been really supportive and really engaging, kind of just getting me up to speed with the design process and kind of like helping me establish a timeline for the summer. So it was never like I didn't know what I was doing throughout the summer. Like the timeline is really set and I have like really good expectations going in of like, this is what I'll be doing week to week. This is when I'll be meeting with design systems. Like this is when I'm working on like iterating on my designs. So I think that was a challenge I faced in the beginning, was just kind of adjusting to the design process. It's different at every company, but I think my team and my mentor have been really supportive, just onboarding me to that and kind of getting me adjusted to that. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Now, Iris, I want you to talk a little bit about the same and maybe highlight some of the differences with your colleagues, but also talk about some of the benefits you're experiencing.
Okay. So I guess I'm starting off with what my typical day looks like, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I think very similar to Justin, I kind of, come in and hang out with some other people at the company. But because I'm based out of San Francisco, as opposed to New York, which I believe Justin is based out of, the population that goes to SF is a lot smaller. And so instead of getting breakfast with other interns, I'm typically hanging out with other like full-timers, like either from like sales or like engineering, more likely sales because it's early in the morning and a lot of our engineering folks don't come in until like 10. And I'm kind of a morning person myself. And so it's been really cool to like just meet different people that do drastically different things from me, and like hear the kind of stories that they have to bring. Not even if it's not super applicable to my daily life, it's just really cool to learn about what they do and like how they support our company in other ways. But yeah, and most of my meetings start at, or I try to schedule my meetings in the morning because I'm a morning person. Like my one-on-ones with my mentor or like my lead or that kind of stuff. We also do coffee chats, which I also try to schedule in the morning. And so my mornings are typically full of meetings. And then I transition into like a lunch-ish phase, which is kind of my mental buffer, but also more opportunity to socialize and network. And this time with all the interns and like all the full-timers. Again, because we're a small office, we kind of all just sit around this one long table. And so you really just get a mixed bag of like conversation topics and experiences. So there's that. And then my afternoons are typically my focused work times where I work on the various projects that I choose to take up. And this is a great opportunity for me to like ask other people on my team for like help if I run into trouble with anything that I'm currently working on.
Right.
What was the question after that?
Oh, just some of the benefits. And I think you're talking about those. I think socialization and exposure to other people in the office sounds like two of the primary benefits, but feel free to elaborate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in addition to what I've already mentioned, I really like the mentoring that we get here that I think Courtney kind of mentioned earlier. I have my like technical mentor, and he's been really open to answering questions. And I think it's interesting how every mentor has a different style of mentoring, because this is my second year actually as an intern at MongoDB. And last year, my mentor was a little bit more hands-on, which I think was what I needed last year. And then this year as a returning intern, my mentor is more hands-off, going like, you know, giving me more freedom and being like, hey, here's what I think you should do, giving me some very high-level overview and letting me really explore for like direction and that kind of stuff. But also like I can check in with him and be like, hey, what do you think of this direction?
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. And so it's really helped me grow and like figure out my direction.
Super valuable. So I want to ask, I'm going to go back to Trishala, and I'm going to ask you, is this your first internship? And how did you come to select MongoDB to participate in this internship program?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, a great question. This is actually not my first internship. I have done product management internship at App Dynamics in the past. And
Great company.
enough, actually, yeah, a lot of the people involved in AppD are also now at MongoDB. So when I was like going through and like networking and talking to a bunch of just like directors and executives at the company, a lot of people were previously involved with AppD. So really cool to see the connection here. But to answer your question, I very strongly recruited for product management roles for the recruiting cycle, but I really prioritized wanting to join a very technical company where PMs had to be just as well versed as any other engineer in the technology that the company was working in, and that they were just involved with the tech stack as other suite interns and, as I mentioned, engineers. And I think something that really stood out to me about MongoDB is that, in my opinion, it's the perfectly sized company. There's so many opportunities within the company, regardless of what team you're on or what role you play, to work on disruptive projects. But there's also a really good balance of having a clear statement of work and expectations. And my intern project was actually really similar to this, where my mentor had a lot of flexibility and really encouraged me to not only challenge him with my project scope, but also seek opportunities to learn as much as I could, go into technologies of interest, and really just like immerse myself in it. And I would say another thing that really stood out to me about MongoDB and actually ultimately led me to join is that the recruitment team and interviewers were absolutely phenomenal. And I still remember the different rounds of interviews that I had and the kind of like responsibility I was given, but also the types of questions I was asked. It really played a big role in my decision. So shout out to my interviewers and recruiter because they were phenomenal.
Great. Well, I want to go back to Courtney briefly. How many interviews can an intern expect? And were you involved in the interview process for these interns?
So unfortunately, I was not involved in the interview process for these wonderful interns. So roughly between 3 to 4. So it really kind of depends on, where you start your process. As another shameless plug, we have a summit called the Make It Matter Summit,
Mhm.
basically where it's geared towards computer science majors, those that are interested in moving into this particular industry. And so during that time frame, that's one of our first opportunities to start vetting out students that are interested in potentially interning. So they have a 15-minute or 15 to 30 minute, it depends on which interviewer you're speaking with. If you were talking to me and for the Make It Matter Summit, it was probably a little bit longer. But between 15 to 30 minutes of going through that interview cycle, and then they will go into a carrot interview where they basically showcase their technical skills. There's about 3 questions that they'll work through, and then after that, they were able to attend the Make It Matter Summit. And so most of those will then go through another interview cycle in order to be viewed for the internship process. So anywhere between 3 to 4, it really just kind of depends on where you start your cycle with
Mhm.
us or potentially coming in as an intern.
Okay. So some questions around the content of the interviews. I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but Justin, I'd like you to take this. Why MongoDB, and what did you do to prepare?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think first, why MongoDB? There are a lot of things that kind of attracted me. I think first, like Trishala, I kind of wanted to work at a very technical company. So in the past, a lot of my experience was kind of based around like general consumer-facing products. And I think I wanted something that kind of leveraged more of my technical CS background, but that also got me a chance to do design work. So I think MongoDB was the perfect place for that, because I'm working on a pretty technical product right now, and I get to work with a lot of data. So I think that's something that the work, first of all, is just something that really brought me to MongoDB. I think second, just all of the interviewers were really kind, really caring. They're really engaging throughout the process. Actually, after I got my offer, 3 of my interviewers reached out to me separately, and they were all like, "We'd love to have you here. Like, it was great to talk to you. We think MongoDB would be like the perfect fit for you to like learn and grow as a designer at the beginning of your design journey." So just like knowing that like people took time to like go out of their way, reach out to me after I got my offer, I think that just kind of showed me like what kind of a place MongoDB is, like where people
Mm,
care about other people, and they're really invested in like our work and our journey. So I think those were kind of the things that really brought me to MongoDB. Yeah,
yeah.
and I forgot the second question. Sorry.
So what did you do to prepare?
Yeah. So I think at least in my role, I'm a product design intern. So I would definitely recommend having a portfolio to kind of show off your different design works. Yeah, it'd be good to show off like any design work. It doesn't really even have to be like super fleshed out like end to end, but anything that really involves like product thinking, like iterating on designs, things like that. Definitely a portfolio would be helpful. And then I think also just kind of getting used to like design challenges and thinking on your feet. So I think one part of the interview process was a live design challenge where I got a prompt and kind of had to solve it live and kind of walk through my thinking. Like, this is like why I would like do this for the product. This is what I would design for it. So kind of getting used to thinking on your feet, that would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, great, great. And I appreciate what you said about your experience with the interviewers. That speaks to the MongoDB culture. We have some core values that we really look for and promote. So, Iris, I'm gonna bring it to you. Why MongoDB, and tell us what you did uniquely to prepare as a software engineering intern?
Yeah. I think in very similar ways to Justin during my interview process, sorry. I very much liked the connections and like the conversations that I had with my interviewers. I still remember Ryan was my first call and my first like contact at MongoDB. And for context, Ryan's another recruiter who is super friendly, just as great as Courtney. And we had like a really good conversation and went a little bit over time and was like, that was a really good conversation. And I felt very like excited to like meet more people at the company. And I mean, even prior to that, I had used MongoDB as a product at some of my like school assignments and was like, this is a pretty cool product. Like I can get behind this. And so I think that was kind of why my interest was piqued at MongoDB and like why I initially applied and that kind of stuff. But throughout like the more technical interviews, I got to have some really cool conversations with people and learned more about why they chose MongoDB, and hearing their reasons why really encouraged me to be like, yeah, I agree with this. I'm also like this. And yeah, the company culture at MongoDB is something that I really do admire and love about our company. And as for what I did to prepare, I think I'm going to differ from a lot of other SWE interns when I say this, and I'm going to acknowledge that, because I think a lot of people will say like read, cracking the coding interview or did some leak code and like that kind of stuff. Personally, I don't love to do that, mainly because I feel like it just makes the technical interviews very like scripted or like, I don't know, it feels less fun almost. And so I just kind of like to, make sure I know what's on my resume and just go in with, preferably a decent amount of sleep and maybe a cup of tea, and just be my best self. I guess for context, I do also like help out with an algorithms class at my school, like I'm a TA. And so maybe that's why I can get away without the leak code and that kind of stuff, because I do have a pretty solid understanding of that. But yeah.
I love it. Let's see. So, Courtney, one for you, perhaps. What's the distribution of available spots across the various areas? Is that something you can address? Design, marketing, and software?
Yeah, so it really kind of varies, depending on the year, also depending on what the business needs looks like. So it really just kind of depends on location, team availability, and support that can be given as far as how that distribution goes. When we have those interviews with the candidates, we do identify what their strengths are and where their areas of interest are. So it really just kind of depends and varies from year to year.
And while we have you, there's questions about availability of internships now. So we're out of the cycle at this point, right? What is this cycle? Can you talk about the timing?
Yeah, absolutely. So September to October is really a time frame to start, looking, paying attention to the MongoDB's career page in order to start making yourself available if you're interested in joining MongoDB for the internship process. So September to October is really when that starts, and the early talent team hands are full from that time frame all the way up, and that I believe it goes almost to about February, March. I want to say is really around that cutoff where all positions are then pretty full, and then it transitions from the spots being filled to starting prepare for what the intern summer will look like. So for sure, connecting with the early talent recruiters as early as you can on LinkedIn, kind of buzzing them, and then also being on the lookout for events that we're having. There's an open house that we're getting ready to start having as well. And then, as we start our, what I like to call the tour, for recruiting and career fairs, stop in at the table, introduce yourself. As you've heard from the interns, the early talent team really does pride ourselves on being very personable and wanting to build those relationships. So we're always a conversation away. Sometimes we may be a little slow to respond on LinkedIn for obvious reasons, but definitely reach out to us and we'll definitely start that conversation.
Great answer. Thank you. And I'm just so curious about the volume of, I want to see your LinkedIn page at the moment. I do want to mention that there are other careers at MongoDB. So if you're interested in perhaps something other than an internship, you can visit mdb.link/careers, learn more about the available careers at MongoDB. Martin Mohammed, you are asking some amazing questions. I don't know if we can cover this today, but what about costs and compensation? We don't want to mention specific numbers, but this is a compensated internship. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. And for obvious reasons, we can't get into numbers, but we do assist with costs. It is paid. There's a stipend for transportation. There's a living stipend as well. And then, of course, we try to feed you whenever we can, which is also, as we talk about benefits of MongoDB, um, which I love that, we didn't even talk about it because it shows like the culture of mentorship and other things are really great. But we have a program called FUDA with MongoDB
Love
where
FUDA.
we get our lunch for free. So yeah, we do cover costs, it's paid. And then of course we have social aspects as well, sprinkled into the 10 weeks of the program, in order to make sure that, they're enjoying their time frame here. They're able to connect. So it's always a lot of fun things going on.
Fantastic. Great. Well, Trishala, what about advice? And there are a lot of people that are listening and viewing today that are maybe vying for a spot. What advice would you give those people?
That is a really great question. Off the top of my mind, my biggest piece of advice is to just go for it, apply. I think something that makes MongoDB recruiting a little bit different than other companies is that MongoDB is a tool for developers. So a lot of students that might not have had past experience using MongoDB or the tools may feel a little less confident applying because they might not know about every single product line that the company offers. And that is totally okay. Because I remember coming in thinking, oh wow, like I don't know too much about this company, like especially in interviews. But there's so much opportunity to learn, and I think that's what makes this company very special and unique. That you don't need to know every single thing about this company, and that there's so many chances for you to learn and build that product knowledge along the way. So even if you're a little bit interested, there's so many different roles open, so many different opportunities. So go ahead and just get your foot in the door.
Great. Good advice. I want to remind folks that we do have a podcast available on all podcast networks. You can visit mongodb.com/podcast and make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe. Give us a comment. We'd love to see a comment. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, those comments are really valuable. And I do read every single comment. So if you leave a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're going to help me improve the content that we have and have more great content just like today. So check that out. Justin, I want to jump to you and I want to ask you the same question. What advice would you have for someone trying to prepare for an internship at MongoDB?
Yeah, in addition to what Trishala said, I definitely say pay attention to our core values. I think a lot of companies like have their core values and slogans and mottos. But I think at MongoDB, like the thing that really surprised me was like everyone is so dedicated to our core values. People talk about them all the time and people really embody them in their work. They're not just like sayings that we say. So when we say things like think big and go far, or embracing the powers of differences, or like being intellectually honest, those aren't just sayings, they're things that people embody every day. Like I come to work every day and people are always, like putting that into their work, putting that into how they treat other people. So I definitely say take a look at our core values and kind of reflect on how your past experiences, how those kind of speak to those core values. I think that will kind of get you a long way in the process. And then I'd say as a second thing, at least for like product design interns, is kind of don't be afraid to apply and don't be intimidated if you don't have a super technical background. I think the thing MongoDB looks for the most is like not, if you know every single tech stack, if you know like every single part of our product. I think they're really looking for people with open minds and people who want to learn. So even though I came from like a more technical CS background, I wasn't really that well versed in like developer data platforms and backend development and things like that. But as long as you're willing to learn and as long as you're willing to always ask questions and be curious, I think this is going to be the perfect place for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, props, kudos for reciting the MongoDB core values. Those are available on our company page, mongodb.com/company. I'm quite impressed that you remembered the core values. So you probably knew this was coming, Iris. Advice for folks preparing for software engineering internships.
Definitely saw this coming. In my head, I was mentally prepared to say, be sure to ask a lot of questions, and then Justin said it. So he kind of stole my answer.
Good.
But yeah, no, I definitely want to echo everything Trishala and Justin has said so far, both amazing answers and amazing pieces of advice. I guess the last thing to add on to that is like in anything that you do, find ways to like enjoy it. Like if you're given a project and you don't quite love like this part of the project, or like, you know, your interests are slightly off from where you think the project is heading, just talk to your mentor about it. There's a lot of ways to kind of like incorporate your interests into your work. At least that's been my experience so far. So I truly am learning and growing, you know, in ways that I really do enjoy through the work that I do and the interactions I have at this company. So,
yeah. And we kind of covered this, but Courtney, I want to give the same question to you. You know, as somebody who vets interns and does recruiting, let's have some nuggets of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, truthfully, the interns really did touch base on a good portion of all of them. I think for me, I'm really big on what's your unique factor. You know, everyone is going through, a lot of individuals are going through the same courses, a lot of the classes. So what makes you stand out? And that's one of the things that I ask a lot of people, you know, what can you do to enhance the programs that we have at MongoDB? And a lot of that goes into really understanding, you know, what you've learned along the way. So I would say, you know, the unique factor is a big part, and then the coachability aspect.
Mm.
You know, we don't expect you to Iris' point, know everything, but are you able to be coached and developed into, you know, who we're looking for? Because the truth of the matter is, you know, while yes, you're serving as an intern, we look for individuals that understand that I am the next employee of MongoDB. So when you come into those interviews with that attitude and that mind frame and your passion, which goes into one of course, of our values, owning what you do, you know, it showcases, you know, we can see that and we can feel that passion inside of the interview process. So I would say unique factor, coachability, active listening are all big key components that we look for, that's not actually written on the paper, but we can really feel in the process of having conversations.
Yeah. Great advice. Thank you for that. And thank you all. Our friend Udish has asked this question a number of times. I want to bring it up. We're going to go rapid fire and try and answer some of the additional questions coming in. What if a person has close to 6.5 years as an engineer now pursuing graduate studies? Would MongoDB still give them a chance? I'll throw that to you, Courtney.
Yeah, I don't want to say yes or no on that one. I would ask if you would reach out to me directly to have that conversation and to pose it to the early talent team to make sure that I give the correct answer on that before giving a solid yes or no.
Yeah, great. So we won't be able to drop the LinkedIn profiles for Courtney, but his full name should be available if I drop the banner. Yeah, Courtney Turner, early talent recruiter. I'm sure that'll be one of the first tests that you have. If you're interested in, you'll have to reach out and see if you can find. It's
and again, don't just reach out. You know, make it a unique factor before reaching out. Like, what's going to make you stand out in the process?
Yeah, fantastic. Courtney, any final words? Anything we missed on the episode? Anything you want to share with the folks watching and listening?
Yeah, you know, absolutely. Well, first again, you know, Michael, I want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to showcase the interns and some of the processes that we have. You know, we thoroughly want to ensure that we're bringing in diverse cohorts of interns and that we're preparing them, whether it be through the mentorship aspects that we talked about, through community of Bloom, which of course is an opportunity to discuss and just make sure that from a headspace they are clear. And then also being able to discuss what it looks like to potentially get your foot in the door. My piece of encouragement is, really, if this is something that you're interested in, continue to advocate, continue to showcase what you bring to the table. And then again, as we have programs, as we have events, continue to check on Ripple Match, which is a platform that we utilize, and all of those key components in order to be a part. But yeah, super excited about connecting with others that are interested in being a part of the internship.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're coming up on time. I want to thank you all for participating. Feel free to unmute, share any final words of wisdom. Justin, Iris, Trishala, anything final to say before we wrap up? Go to you, Justin, first. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely say, I think this was mentioned before, just don't be scared and just apply. I think it can be sometimes intimidating, like you're applying to like a technical company. Don't be afraid, like be confident in your experience and your skills. And again, like how much you're willing to learn, how curious you are, like how open you are to feedback and asking questions. I think those are like huge parts of it. So definitely just don't be intimidated to apply. It's a great company and has great culture. And yeah, I think it was a really great decision that I made. So yeah.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you here. Trishala, anything final to share?
Yeah, just to echo Justin's sentiment, just go for it. Don't hesitate. I'm also sure that all of us would be down to be reached out to if you do have any questions specifically about our roles, our internships, and what our biggest takeaways were from the whole program and experience. Also, Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, but I actually indicated interest in 2 to 3 internships. So for people in the comments that are interested in multiple roles, go ahead and throw that interest in multiple roles just to see what pans out. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. And Iris?
Yeah, definitely. Panic brain. Sorry. Feel free
It's
to
a
reach out
thing.
to me if you have any questions. Let's see. Be yourself. Be confident. Like fight for yourself in like be your own best advocate. I think that's like the best thing when you're like going into internships and whatnot. So
Great.
yes.
Great advice. Okay, so we did have a couple of final questions. How to apply for the program, Mohammed Yaqub. Take a look at the link on the screen. It's mdb.link/students-and-graduates. You can get more information about the MongoDB internship program there. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thanks everybody for joining. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. I'm also on Twitter @mlin. Connect with me. Happy to answer any questions you have about MongoDB. We didn't cover any technical questions today, but we do that as a regular matter of course on the MongoDB podcast in audio versions as well as in live stream versions. Make sure that you take time to subscribe, follow on LinkedIn, and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all of the podcast networks. Reach out to me if you have questions or suggestions for content. I'm always open, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.